If I'm ever feeling bad or need to pick me up, usually a quick read from Exodus will pick me right back up. Because if you look at the Israelites in the book of Exodus, they are train wrecks. If you remember what's happening here, they've just been freed from slavery, right? And then God intervenes, he sends Moses, all these plagues happen, they're spared from the plagues, and the Egyptians are suffering from them. They're finally freed after all this time of slavery. They've never experienced freedom in their life. They're being worked to death. And now they're walking out, they see the Red Sea, they have the pillar of cloud, pillar of fire, all these miracles. And yet, how does our first reading start? They're complaining. They're complaining to God, and not just like, oh my gosh, this is kind of inconvenient. They're like, oh my gosh, if we would die, we'd rather die in Egypt than what we're doing right now. I can only imagine God being like, guys, are you serious? Everything I've done for you, and you'd rather go back to slavery? You'd rather go back to Egypt? And yet that's exactly what they're saying. And before we get to, condemning them, don't we kind of do the same thing? How many times have we been forgiven for our sins over and over again? And yet what do once the Lord frees us and forgives us from those sins? So often we just run back to the same ones. We run back to the same lifestyle over and over and over again that we were in the first time, the lifestyle that actually enslaved us to sin. And sometimes I think God's like, Father Josh, what are you doing? But what does he do? He forgives us again, he provides for us, and he provides abundantly, because that's what he does for them. They ask for food, they're starving, they'd rather go back, and he says, let me bless you beyond your imagination. Let me send you this manna, this bread-like substance that's going to feed you, that's going to sustain you and strengthen you until I bring you into the promised land. That even though they sinned against him, even though they complained, even though we complain and sin against God, he continues to bless us and bless us abundantly. He blesses us through our saints today, Saints Joachim and Anne, the parents of the Blessed Mother. Through them and through their daughter, we're sent Jesus, the true bread from heaven, the true food that sustains us and brings us not into a physical promised land, but a spiritual one. So today, let us give thanks to God. Give thanks to him for his great mercy, his great forgiveness, and that even in our sinfulness, he continues to provide for us and provide for us abundantly.